my desktop's still unavailable. It's still saying that they got a problem, so I can't share.
Oh, that's
And I've
convenient.
updated.
Okay. All right. Well, let us
Which
hope.
is going to be a problem because I was wanting to. Oh, right. Tell you what, I'll send you over a diagram. This is just as a method of discussing this. This is not an actual. This works thing.
Method of discussing. Okay.
Stand by one.
Standing by. Well, this is off to a roaring start.
Hey man, we're not looking for monetization of the YouTube channel.
No, absolutely not. We are looking for monetization though, buddy. So
That
let's
would be good though. That would be good. Okay.
get it.
Right. So, yeah, we were very fuzzy yesterday.
Okay.
In both directions about actually what looks like done in what you need in terms of these interactions of external services and interactions between the services, that sort of thing. So
those questions you were asking sound like exactly down the right path. To be hitting those questions is a great sign.
Yeah. So I've been thinking along those lines, and this format, I can't even remember what the format is. I found it has a name. Anyway, this is a formal format. It's composite structure diagram. And what it highlights is the interactions between things that do stuff, which seems to be one of the layers. Now, I think part of the complexity here is we're talking about different layers. So what?
That seems to be all of the arguments and issues that we've had have all been an issue with picking the right layer point.
Yeah. So I've stripped out a lot of stuff here, or abstracted. Well, I haven't. This is just again derived from the definitions.
So this is a render. This is a render of the definitions.
Yeah, this is a direct render.
Okay.
And I put in one. I put in the Deno as an example of an external service. Now, what we're talking about over the text there is what's the flow, and there seems to be a number of flows, a number of views that we could look for. The cash flow, as in who pays what when it's consumed, and so on. There's the license, the right to use that service, and then there's the right to services to interact.
And so the angles that I want to break apart and correct where I think that there are errors is the pervasive concept I see throughout these diagrams where all the relationships are occurring as contractual relationships. They are. I don't feel like the contractual relationships are being captured at the right level of requirement because they are only needed to gain access to things in the real world. They are not needed internally.
Yes, except for, I agree largely with that, except for what we're saying is all the actors, of which there are 4 types that work on Dreamcatcher.
Yep.
They're all signed up to a gateway.
They don't have to be.
If they're not, then the gateway gives access to services. If you get someone random signing up somewhere else down the line, so Dreamcatcher platform here, really, we could
not all services have to go through a gateway. The gateway is there when the service requires a legal entity for it to interact with. But what I feel is fundamentally being left off is the ability for anybody with a computer to fire it up and offer a service. They don't need a gateway or any kind of contractual relationship to be able to provide those compute resources.
Yes, okay, so let's go through that. So for then I'll just say compute service.
Yep.
So in that scenario, we've got, say, two different actors who both trust the Dreamcatcher platform. And you're saying that the Dreamcatcher platform could run NAPs on someone's home GPU.
Correct.
So let's say that's user 1 who's providing that service. User 2 doesn't know anything about user 1.
Yep.
Doesn't know from Adams, could be anonymous.
Yep.
But there's a contractual relationship with through the gateway with Dreamcatcher platform, and the Dreamcatcher platform in that contractual relationship has certain rights and responsibilities, as every contract does. So,
but user one doesn't need a contract to be participating in the platform.
Are you saying though that user 1 can offer his GPU out to some random person who doesn't know him
if he wants? Yep.
There's no quality control. There's no.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no security provision.
Yep, 100%.
And that would be then a one-to-one, either a one-to-one agreement between user 1 and user 2, or user 2. Well, if you feel your
this is
you have no idea what you're going to do.
This is the error that I see here is that the contractual relationships are progressive. They start from 0, and you only enter into them with other participants as required. You don't have to have one to start. Like I could start two talent people could start talking to each other about an idea, and they don't need to have entered into a contract with the gateway in any way, but they at some point might decide, okay, I want some legal protection, and so now for me to keep talking, I need you, the other guy, to at least have this baseline contract in place, like an NDA.
Okay, so let's do that. So two random people want to start talking about how to solve a stuck, say.
Yes.
Right. They are consuming resources by just doing that talking, unless they've printed it out and they're just talking about it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
They are causing contribution. They are making contribution in the contribution layer.
They're also consuming. So if there's no contract with any of these user 1, user 2, and platform, then okay, so it can record contribution, but you're consuming at least tokens by
so right
the platform.
And in that case, with the model that we have right now, you would need to have at least agreed to some terms and conditions to be able to use the shared computing resources in that way, because we are forced to do that because we have to have that contractual relationship with the infrastructure provider. They require us to police our users so that when they themselves get policed, like people can't be doing anything illegal on their servers, and they pass that requirement on to us, and we have to pass that on to others. But the issue is that that relationship, whilst very common, is not required. It's only required because of the way that we're provisioning the infrastructure right now. There is a range of data centers all around the world that we can contract with that do not have that requirement. This image you see here is actually on a server that is under such a relationship in Singapore.
Yes,
because it's a seed box.
Yeah, Yeah, but in order for us to talk about this, we've got both contract with Meta and a contract with the Seedbox, um, and that's
the
we
the
don't
i-
have a
the
contract.
idea, yeah, the idea of the contracts was initially only to allow people to participate in activities that are controlled or related to the real world. You cannot interact with institutional resources unless you have contractual ability, and
So, um,
that's not fundamental. You don't, to solve or contribute to provide solutions, you don't need to be interacting with any institution.
okay, so here's a test case. User one and user two just want to turn up and use the platform and top on the platform. Um,
Yeah,
so they're consuming resources.
correct.
So they're going to have to pay up front,
N- Uh,
or
no,
get,
no.
get into debt. One of the two.
Well, we are going to gift them credits to get them started. I'm just conscious that the to answer you correctly might differ from the point that you're trying to get to, but
Yeah.
how that really
The
goes. So tell me if you're like, I just want to gloss over this to get to my point.
yeah, no, that's right. The point I was leading to is what is the minimum way of user one and user two interacting on the Dreamcatcher platform. Sure, we can gift them credits and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, but that's still a
Are
thing.
you asking for the minimum contractual relationship in terms of like
Yeah,
a click through agreement or any kinds of terms and services on the platform?
right.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Someone turns up and saying, I just want to use the Dreamcatcher platform because my mate said that's good, and I want to talk to this guy
I think
and have a look through stuff.
the minimum we would require is to provide an identity, and that's it. Because if you consider how we are providing long threat right now, the long threat platform doesn't, you don't have to click through anything to start using it and start burning tokens. And we're completely on side with our infrastructure providers for doing that. They don't require us to cause our users to sign anything or agree to something, but we need to simply say to the users, look, the conditions that we offer our services on are X. Here's how we treat your private data. These are the regulations for you if you're coming at us from this jurisdiction, like Europe, versus coming at us from America. We're not. We don't have to make them have a formal contractual relationship with us. And honestly, if they want to pay us service credits in cryptocurrencies, we don't need them to pass any kind of contractual relationship whatsoever.
Yes, but there are some things we can get around, like
Like,
acceptable use, data privacy,
yeah, acceptable
and so
use
on.
is something that so our infrastructure provider will tell us that something's being done that's unacceptable, and then we are required to respond rapidly to sever that user or remedy the situation if it is like copyrighted content is being housed, or hate speech, or any of pick any number of internet ills. If
Yeah.
people are doing it here and our moderation systems haven't caught it, then we need to respond. But we don't have to do that up front. Like, we don't have to. We need to have a way that people can navigate the system and find out what our acceptable use is and what our data privacy policies and things are. But we don't. It doesn't have to be in your face about it, you know.
So the minimum, then I'm thinking is exactly as you do with signing up Deno.
Mm-hmm.
Has they have terms and conditions? It's kind of it's not a contract, but terms and conditions are here are your responsibilities, here are
Yeah,
responsibilities,
yeah.
and we hold the right to chuck
We
you
can,
off.
yeah, we can cut you off anytime. And the only reason why we have to provide an initial instance of the platform that has acceptable use policies is because we're using acceptable use policed infrastructure. If we were running on I don't know what the term is for it, but it's like gray infrastructure, or
Mm-hmm.
like the stuff that you run seed boxes on, or things like that. We do not have to have the terms of use, terms of service, in any way. We're just, but like honestly, even a seed box has terms of service. Um,
Yeah, because
Technically, like,
even if you set up a home server with a GPU and run this
yeah,
and
you still
invited
get,
someone to do it,
yeah,
you're going to be in the shit if they start doing
yeah.
the
Terms of
speak
service
part of
is, it is a funny one because the arm of the law is long, and so it should be. But the architectural point I'm trying to get at here is that you've designed this, or this design presents as a single controlled platform, but the idea of it, the way that the protocols were made, is that you can run many instances of it, and they communicate uh, in a network. It's actually a network, not an individual thing. And so each provider or each instance on the network has their own terms of service depending on what infrastructure they're using, what country they're in, and their own personal political views. But it's not. It doesn't belong in the definition of the standard platform. It's a requirement of the service providers, the resource operators that put that
Okay.
requirement in there, and it's bespoke to each one.
So what we're saying, we're back to one-to-one agreements. So you want to sign up with one
No,
platform, you
no,
want to sign up with another one. You got two agreements.
no. I think I see what you're getting at there is that you're trying to say that if people sign up with a particular gateway, then they can have trust in the people that they're dealing with
Yeah.
are also under that gateway. Yeah. So how I would imagine that going is that you don't need the gateway doesn't need to get involved unless you need to go through the gateway. And the gateways are jurisdictional, like they're regional. And so the type of contract you're really talking about, I think, is the sort of that general purpose license document that you'd prepared several years ago. That sort of
Yeah.
is, it's like an open-ended contract. It's not with a specific entity. Um, it allows an aggrieved party to pick up the contract, pick up your obligations if they want. It's sort of open to everyone. It's not direct one to one,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and and
So
and that's the separation I'm trying to drive at here, is that somehow it feels the gateways have become tangled up in that type of peer-to-peer progressive opt-in contract situation. And it's not that they need to sign one with each other, it's that they sign one with the network as a whole, and each participant can see what level they've signed to, or, like, have they signed version 1? Have they signed the NDA clause? Have they signed the something clause? Have they paid a bond into the platform for good behavior? There's different things that you can do to present a higher and higher level of trust within the system.
I agree with that. And also, if you think about the gateways, so the gateways are multiple gateways, different
Yeah,
jurisdictions and so
different
on.
jurisdictions, and
And
also different
each,
policies that occur on each one.
exactly, and each inter-gateway agreement is a bit like a filter. It's like, is this everyone on this gateway? Do they is your terms of service or the levels that you've offered NDAs,
Yeah,
contractual, whatever?
yeah, the different modules,
How do
the
they?
different modules in the
Yeah,
contracts.
and
Yeah,
and some will be filtered out, and so it's like, there's no way you're ever going to work with Abu Dhabi, for example. Um, So if you want, just go straight to Abu Dhabi and the gateway there. But there's something here that's missing from this diagram, which is that layered thing you're saying. So it's almost like
Modules.
um,
Modules.
the base layer is you turn up with any platform, Dreamcatcher platform in this case. Now it's licensing through the Dreamcatcher Foundation.
It's only the word licensing is somewhat misleading because it's actually just brand assets. It's the ability to use the trademark. That's all.
Yeah, but that trading as thing, there needs to be an agreement. You can't allow anyone just to trade as.
Trade as who?
Yeah. Well, when we were talking about, for example, trading as Dreamcatcher platform, remember we were talking about that.
Right, but the wording is not trading as Dreamcatcher platform. It's It's be like UK Gateway 1 trading as project name.
Right. So,
and that is policeable at the individual gateway level, but the access to the brand assets is given out to the gateways because the gateways control who can use them in a trading as fashion or any other or like a subsidiary fashion, but the holder of the trademark says that they are allowed to indicate that they are part of this network. Like that's why trademarks become quite important for open source projects.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm going at is the important point you made. This hierarchy of I'm going to behave myself more and more and more.
Yeah.
And have more responsibilities and more rights.
Yep.
The base level is I set up a GPU, download the open source version of Artifact and JSON NAT format, and I just run it, and I run it with a bunch of mates.
Yep.
And that could be a handshake.
Doesn't need to be a handshake even. It's a protocol.
Fist bump.
Not even that. It's the base layer is the rules of the software.
Right. But you're saying yes, quite right. But that's the kind of API, the connectivity level,
the protocol level. That's the lowest level of trust, and the software is defined to detect faults in the protocol, and that kicks you out. That's the in a very loose sense. That's the same as the police.
Right.
Very loosely.
If I were to set up a home server, download it all, run everything, it's under GNU or whatever.
Yep.
GPU. Mate does it.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so now we can link up those two, and we can have our own little network. Now, the important thing is that's what I was trying to express is that is the kind of the lowest level. So the lowest level of trust is.
I trust this software.
Protocol level.
Yep. I trust this software and the primitives that it's built upon.
Exactly.
Yep.
And if you fuck up, that's not a problem. If you end up hosting kiddie porn, sods to you.
But no one's going to come on our network because our moderation will pick that up.
Yeah. This is where I'm leading to. Sorry, if I can finish the thought. There's a hierarchy here. So if those two home setups want to access, say, our setup, then I would suggest we put that through kind of the Dreamcatcher gateway, remembering that there's any number of gateways, and it's like that's the basic level that we need.
No, I don't think that's necessary at all. The minimum level is even lower than that. We would just because we're using fancy servers doesn't make us any different from a peer-to-peer standpoint as the people running the thing in their garage. The software executes the same. It's the same software, right?
But
And so when they want to communicate with our instance, we have set our moderation settings to disallow certain types of content that we personally don't like. Never mind what our infrastructure providers don't like. Like we are entitled to, because we're running the infrastructure and offering people to pay us to do that for them, we do set our own rules, which are set with certain tastes in mind.
yeah, that's
Right.
exactly what I'm saying.
And so
That's one up. Well, it's one
but
up from.
it's no gateway contract.
Well, that's one up. So you're saying, okay, these two dudes
Yeah.
have set up their own one, and now they want to clag into Dreamcatcher platform.
Our one. Yep.
So
But keep in mind,
we're setting, as you just said, certain rules.
yeah,
If you come over
moderation.
here,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know, whatever we want in terms of cost. So up to this
Yeah.
point, they've been bearing the cost.
That's right.
They come onto Dreamcatcher platform.
If they want to use
we-
our resources, we advertise our pricing to them, and we advertise our moderation we advertise what our moderation settings are, but it's still ultimately up to us. We can just do it because we don't like them. They're from Glasgow. Screw them.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
But let's say if we charge.
Yeah.
So previously the cost has been borne by them. They
Yep.
want to work with Dreamcatcher platform,
Mhm.
and some of those costs are being borne by us.
Yep.
So we need some method of charging.
Yep.
Our method of charging is through, whichever payment gateway we want. We
Payment
want to.
gateway, but we
Yeah.
might take crypto.
Sure, that's just another gateway. Oh, that's another service, right?
Yeah.
Payment service. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
over indexed.
Overused gateway.
So now we've gone up one level of kind of requirement.
Yep.
Now these guys want to use NAPs produced, say elsewhere, by another kind of homebrew.
Yep.
They've
So
done a whole
someone
bunch
produced an app just in their own garage. They made it, and now the two guys in the garage are using it.
Yep. And these other guys have mirrored this by going to another platform with different attribution, different rules, and so on.
Yep.
Now they want to transact because, Group 1 wants to use that from Group 2. Okay, so we can record that contribution. There needs to be a contract or an agreement, let's call it, because contract is too heavy. An agreement between the two platforms saying, right, a contribution on yours is recorded on ours, your attribution is your own affair, our attribution is our affair, and now we've linked the two. Yeah?
I'm hesitant to say yes, but I'll agree with it because I think that your render needs to. I can't tell for sure what's wrong until you render a bit more. There's the opportunity for that to be wrong, but there's also it could be right. But
Okay.
yeah.
But now we've stepped up one level.
What is the one level?
The one level is now we've got two mirrors who have just got the base terms and conditions, the usual thing.
Yeah.
With signing on to any service into two platforms. And
two instances of the Dreamcatcher platform.
Right.
Yep.
And they want to use NAPs from here over there and vice versa. And so there needs to be some kind of an agreement between the platforms.
When you say use NAPs, are they just pulling in the data required to run it and they're running it on their own infrastructure, or you're saying that they want to trade hosting?
Well, it could be both of those because NAPs are flexible enough that you could be your NAP access.
Okay, so are these NAPs GPL software?
Let's say it is. Yeah.
Say it is. Okay, so there'd be no fees levied for transferring the source code of the NAP apart from the data transaction fees.
Yeah, but there would have to be an agreement between the two platforms because there's an agreement between the the homebrew guys and the platform about
The
no kiddie porn, please. This other platform,
No, that's not an agreement. It's a firewall.
um,
A firewall isn't an agreement. If the moderation
well,
acts like a firewall,
um,
why do you need them to agree
well,
to?
in the same way as when you signed up with Deno, they asked you to agree to their terms and conditions, right?
Yeah, but I don't need to ask our users to agree to those terms and conditions too, and I don't need to ask them to agree to my terms and conditions.
Well, you
Like, why is there this need I see laced throughout all the interactions you map to have an agreement between people?
because when we're talking about this, what we want to do is what the head mark is ultimately is for people to have pop-up companies without having to go through all the shareholding contractual
Yeah, correct,
NDA
correct. But
nonsense.
you've led that through to the interactions of all the participants. I would expect that maybe less than 1% would want to start their own company through the Dreamcatcher. The majority of them will just want to transact as permissionless agents on the platform. The majority of them won't want to sign contracts with the network or with each other. They'll want to just get paid, probably in crypto, and they'll want to consume and pay for that and with a credit card.
Yep.
I think the contractual relationships required to start a company have been overemphasized in this design, and I just want to dial that back to cover with just as much importance the contract-free interactions that occur.
The only addition to this diagram then is each of these actors can simply use the Dreamcatcher platform. And they could choose to, through the Dreamcatcher platform, escalate that, saying, "Hey, I'd really like to, you know, use this other service. I don't want to go and, you know, go and sign up to that service and then clag it in and then do all that API nonsense down here. That's abstract.
Right. So if they want to consume services in that way, then the contractual relationships they need to meet are determined by the service provider. The majority of service providers won't need anything other than prepayment. Right, and the moderation is taken care of by the service provider, where they just block you. They just you try and do something that breaks the moderation. They're like, no, hard no.
The service providers require KYC, AML.
Not necessarily. It depends on the service. If it's just providing a Pinecone database, I don't need to know who you are.
Yeah, okay, but if we were to go through Stripe.
If we were to go through Stripe, we don't need to get KYC for people to pay us with a credit card.
But they need KYC on us, right?
Stripe needs it on us, so we are the service provider, and we are responsible for the charges that we make against credit cards, and we're responsible to stick to Stripe's terms of service, which are things like, can't sell guns, can't do gambling, like a bunch of rules, and we have to police that. But we don't have to say that to our users, and they don't have to agree to it. It's just that if they try and do something that breaks Stripe's rules, we just go, nah, done, not happening.
Okay, but that moves the risk onto the platform. So say if our moderation,
the risk always was there. The risk always is there.
But what I'm saying is, someone could run rampant. We wouldn't notice because
we would notice. It's our job to notice.
Yeah, but unless you're infallible or the Pope, there's things that we would not notice.
Right, but an agreement's not going to save you from that issue anyway.
No, but the agreement transfers risk.
Well, only it doesn't transfer it from the eyes of Stripe. Stripe is we are the throat to choke for Stripe. Just because we've got other throats to choke doesn't really help us.
Well, it does because Stripe's not the law. The law would then allow us to go after the person who's being selling kiddie porn through our platform. Stripe has said, "We've noticed this. You didn't notice this. You're off." Bang, and go shit. There goes our business.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. So
we
we're
should
left.
go out
We're
of business for that. By the way,
yeah, but
like
we're
we don't
holding
deserve to be in business.
we're holding the hot potato now,
Well,
and
we're
it's
obviously
like
not
this.
criminally liable, but I mean, this I don't feel like we're like we want to offer the minimum amount of administrative burden for people to use our platform, right?
Isn't it the case then that the only change we're really talking about here is platforms can go through gateways just to make it easier to interact with other platforms.
That sounds correct, but I don't see why that even matters. Like two platforms could interact without a gateway being involved at all. It's up to them.
Well, say if we've had kiddie porn going through our platform.
Can we pick a different? Can we pick a different
Okay.
bad thing?
All right,
Guns.
let's just say bad thing. Bad thing
A
one.
gun. Yeah. So guns are being sold. Yep.
Yeah, and we've been thrown off Stripe.
Yep.
And it's like we've thrown off the user.
Yep.
And there's this other platform that previously has been accessing our naps, and it's like shit. You just
When you say
infected-
accessing our naps, do you mean we are running the naps for them?
the naps were generated and are running on us.
So we're hosting the naps for them, right?
Yeah. Well, this comes down to the architectural layer, but I think that's one of the things you're pointing at the other day, where it's actually running. But yes, take that as an example. I don't know,
Yeah.
how that's whether you're architecting it. Let's say if it's running on platform one,
So right.
and the NAP, it's got all sorts of other things that goes and finds Glocks and that sort of thing.
Yep.
This other platform is like squeaky clean,
Yep.
doesn't like guns at
Yep.
all,
Yep.
and one of their users goes, "Oh, just discovered this. Let's buy a Glock NAP." Now they,
But
potentially-
there's the dark platform is the one that's hosting it. The user was engaging with the services of this other platform when they did it. It would be pretty obvious that that's hosted by someone else. It'd be like going to a different server on the internet. It would be obvious that you're somewhere else. The fact that I can say use ChatGPT and it go out and browse several different websites for me, some of which may contain forbidden information, like that's that kind of situation.
So, should we be
And-
removing gateways at all? Completely?
No. This is the issue, right? Like you've baked gateway into everything, but it belongs there, just not in everything.
Oh, no,
Gateways.
it's a tier. It's a view. I could easily do a render here saying at the user interaction level only, none of whom have agreed to any gateway interaction, and then we'll get a diagram like this. So it's a render. It's a choice of render. So it's not baked in. It's simply defined. But the question is, the definition I think you're driving at is gateways are only there when you get to a certain level.
Yeah, they're only
in order
there.
to
Yeah, and that
abstract
level,
away.
that level is when you need to interact with institutions or other legal entities in a particular jurisdiction, and that's why you need the gateway component. Because, like, you look at Ethereum users, you're stuck on the Ethereum chain. You can't start a company from just inside the Ethereum chain. But that's the service that we need.
Okay, so that's interaction between legal entities, but not services. The services are contracted by each platform individually. You get your own Stripe account, platform 2.
Yeah, because I think when you're running as a platform, you're sort of some kind of entity. And if you want to use institutional services like Stripe, you're going to need to either run your own, which you can, or use a gateway to make it easier for you.
Which you can, but then you need to contract with the gateway. The gateway will have its own filter and
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah, that's right.
All you're
And
doing is passing through what Stripe requires.
yeah, that's right.
If you're going to
That's
use
right.
our Stripe thing,
Yeah.
you need
And in
to do
fact, like a Stripe payment processor is an example of something that I would think would be complicated by a gateway. You probably want to set up a dedicated company for us to do that. But there's nothing wrong with someone else who sits there and is like, I don't want to deal with filing my tax returns. I just want to use the gateway service and run my own Stripe thing.
right. So, there's like a thermocline here, isn't there? Below that, it's 1-to-1, whatever you want to agree, and it
It's
could be
well,
nothing.
it's the software agreement. The protocol agreement is the base layer. If you don't agree with the software protocol, you're not in the platform.
Yeah, but
And
that's the platform's problem. But as a user turning up at a portal, I don't know anything about the protocol.
right,
Um, and below this thermocline, if you wanted to, you could even not bother with a login. Just use it.
yeah, you should be able to use you mean like use the software directly?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
long thread at the moment is.
yeah, you could do that. Or you could just generate a set of crypto keys and just use it based on your identity is backed by your ability to sign.
Yep, and it can deal with payments locally if there are any payments.
Yeah.
You could pay it in cows if you want.
Yep. If the other side will take cows, then you can pay in cows.
Yeah, exactly. So that is all on a single platform. Now we're talking about Dreamcatcher platform here being duplicated. As many
Yeah.
platforms as you want. So
Yeah.
a single platform is we only take you get all the goodness of our attribution model, which is mostly around milk, and your contribution is mostly around cows, and we pay out in cows or milk. That's like okay. Or one even layer below that is we're not charging anything, just come and use it. And we're not even logging a contribution because you just can, because the net format doesn't actually imply contribution or attribution. It just
Right.
is.
So what did that give us?
So at the very lowest level is like, do what you want. Here's a format. Do what you want. One layer up on the platform, it's like, platform, you decide. But you're just your users and your little enclave. Do what you want. We don't care. The platform's responsible for, if at that point it wants to go up to the cow exchange, fine. If it wants to do anything in terms of trading between other platforms, which at the protocol level are compatible, and by trading, I mean a trader on Dreamcatcher A wants to put money on an app that's been produced on platform B, there needs to be some kind of agreement that that's going to be honoured, because platform A is the one that's taking the cows.
No, I disagree with that. Can you restate that scenario? I think this is where we fall down.
Okay, so in the situation, we've got two platforms
Yep.
that got their own rules.
Yep.
Who cares? But someone who's using platform A as a trader sees, and there's an agreement with platform 2 with its own rules, sees an app and wants to put money on that app in the trader method that we've been discussing.
Yep.
Okay, so where does the money go?
The money goes to platform 2.
Right. Okay. What's the route? So the money needs to come from the
Where did the
trader
money start?
to
So the money started on the trader. He could either
yeah.
pay it into an issuer that is recognized on platform 2, or he could have an issuer that's recognized on platform 1, and there's a money route to do an exchange that exchanges it for assets that are good to go on platform 2, because that's like saying I have the Ethereum chain and I have the Solana chain, and I have assets on Ethereum and I want to trade with something on Solana. Like I want to buy an NFT that's sitting on Solana, so I need to use a bridge, or basically a currency exchange function that bridges between assets on one versus assets on the other. And so what I'm trying to get at with the way that we model Stripe dollars, when we launch, we'll set up our Stripe gateway our payment processor for Stripe, and we will issue US dollars issued by our entity backed by Stripe. And then we, the hosting company, will accept those dollars. Other people might accept those dollars too for services and things that occur on the platform. And so it really comes down to anyone can be an issuer. What you'll accept is up to each individual. And if you say you'll only accept US dollars from one of these 10 Stripe issuers on the network, and someone wants to pay you but they don't have any of that currency, they need to go and trade it. If either their currency is worthless, whatever they hold, or there'll be arbitrage opportunities for people to swap them in and out, and for people to bridge them between the platforms.
Right. Okay. So that's again, that's below the thermocline, and that's very traditional, right?
This classic blockchain asset transfer.
Yeah, I could have I could be on Ethereum, your choose Doge, whatever. We come up with an agreement because we're kind of both agreeing with the rules of the thing. It's like, I want to buy that thing from you, or I want to give you money, and I expect that contribution to be noted in case that your NAP gets money from somewhere else. I want that back. But there's no contractual agreement, and hey, if it happens, that's cool. If it doesn't,
yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's not to say that's it is the Wild West at the basic layer. You could build up on that and start having contractual relationships to strengthen that, but it really is a case of buyer and seller beware.
Right, exactly. So that's the anarchy level.
Yeah,
which none of this actually prevents. Now,
no.
One up when you're saying the contractual level. Where do you see, is that one-to-one contracts again? Is this like
it could be a group contract and then a click-through contract where it deals with you directly, or like it really does depend on what's at stake. Is it an NDA, in which case everyone can just sign a standard NDA that says any other member of the Dreamcatcher, here's the rules under which I'll hold your information confidential. That's one example.
So what we're doing there, I think we're onto something here. Move the one up from anarchy stuff, because it's whoever pursues an NDA. That is inside the platform. A can offer an NDA, because who wants to go and search for an NDA?
That's right. And so that would start to need you could have those things be detached, where they are from the individual offered to any takers, or they could be using a gateway where the gateway is somehow involved to perform some kind of recourse or legality for the contract. It really does depend. I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't have a good list in mind for them, but it could be employment contracts. It could at the top end, it could be escrow services as another one.
Yeah, and that's getting quite high up. But
Yeah,
at
it's
the NDA level, all you need is platform A and platform B have agreed through a mutual gateway that we've got one NDA.
yeah,
We're both offering the one NDA. You
yeah,
sign it here, and it's good there.
yeah, something like
And
that. Yeah,
who really cares about NDAs?
yeah.
Um,
But I think the point I want to push on between those two platforms
mm,
is that if they are non-adversarial and are simply separate for identity's sake, resources'
yeah,
sake,
branding or
yeah,
whatever.
and if they actually don't disagree on the attribution algorithm, if they're running the same attribution algorithm, then you won't need, if you do something, if you bridge across and start consuming a service that's running on platform 2, but your majority of your services are running on platform 1, because those platforms will cooperate together through software to produce the same result for contribution and for attribution, they act as though they were the same platform.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if they're both identical, one is running on AWS, one is running on Deno.
Yeah,
But at the kind of the logical layer,
the
the
logic is
protocol
the same.
layer,
Yeah,
they're exactly the same.
yeah,
They're the same system.
yeah. That's right. That's right.
But the again following the cache, depending on where things are consumed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a bit like a trade agreement, right? So inside the EU, everyone agrees on the same rules.
Yep.
So it's like,
Yep.
yeah. Now, one above that comes down to things like if you do burn resources in someone, or let's say in this case, the NAP that the trader has put money against and therefore has been contributed, and the rules are right, and has generated some cash. That cash is by users or actors, consumers on platform 2. Platform 2's got that cash now, and it needs to get it to this trader on platform 1. So it needs to give cash from platform 2 to platform 1, who gives it to the account of the trader.
Yep.
Now, that cash transfer,
Yep.
I think, is when we get into the next layer, which is like an agreement of some sort.
Oh, why do you keep
that
saying
you-
agreement? Why does it need an agreement?
Because of it, AML.
What if it's ETH? What if it's Bitcoin?
Well, okay. What if Platform 2 accepts Bitcoin and has a Stripe account, doesn't want to lose its Stripe account because Stripe is looking out for anything that blows up in their face,
Yep.
and has a big business?
In that case, you would need some kind of contractual thing to get you access to that platform, or you could use an exchange service to get swap out your, I'll call it dirty money, just because it's dirty is definitely a subjective thing, and then you get clean money, and then you go around and you spend that.
Right.
But it's just the fact that you don't have to have an agreement necessarily. You it's useful to be able to have an agreement, but there's a lot of uses that you don't need it. And I'm just a little bit the suspicion is dawning on me that I might be complicating the situation by bringing in the concept of having multiple compatible collaborating platforms all at once. Like it doesn't really matter. It ends up at the same result anyway. Whether we can, like, that really does become an implementation detail. I think it's a crucial one because it means that you should trust this platform because it can't be taken over by any given person, and you can sort of fragment off your own piece anytime. Like, that's important, but I think it does wildly complicate the reasoning about the context diagram, because I think we should just view the many platforms as just one for the sake of reasoning.
Yeah, I'm starting to doubt the need for gateways at all.
Oh, dude, you can't. Why are you always 100% on or just 0% off? Like,
doubt is not 100%. If that was 100%, then
oh, you kind of
everyone would
flipping
be
between like
atheists or theists. Right?
everything involves the gateway, and then you're like, maybe I don't even need a gateway, and then like
No,
I'm like,
well,
the gateway's there only for some types of activity, which are the types of activity where you want to interact with a legal institution or a legal entity, but you don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of setting up your own one.
Yep, which sounds a lot like a NAP, as opposed to a separate thing.
No, the gateway has to be a legal entity, and it has to have a way of allowing use of its legal entity-ness from the platform. So it can't be a NAP. It isn't a NAP. It's
Okay,
like it's
yeah. It could, but all you're doing is like
it could not.
demobilizing the contract.
No, it's not. It's not able to be a NAP. It's the same as like a computer server. Like a computer server is not a NAP.
So what we're talking about layers here, and I think we're making progress because we've got the grey area. There may need to be agreement. There may not be. At what point would someone use a gateway in that two-platform situation? So things are getting serious now. Let's do a joint venture.
Can we ditch the two-platform scenario? Because I don't feel like it helps any. Like okay. I think you can ask your same question. Yeah, your question is still valid.
So
on a single platform.
Two users or two actors want to join into a joint venture that will consume resources.
Can I have an example, like just a silly example of what the venture is?
Sure. They want to use NAPs to arbitrage crypto.
So they want to make some NAPs to arbitrage and use the hosting platform with the goal of arbitraging crypto for fun and profit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so an agreement that is 50-50. See.
Okay.
Well, actually, no. Forget that last bit.
It doesn't add anything, right?
They have an agreement that their contributions are recognized through attribution.
Okay, because that's really the use case we want to support. Okay. All right. And then, so they would, was there more to the scenario that is useful?
No, try and keep it simple.
That's okay. That's pretty simple. And what's the question about this scenario?
So the question is that the point where they're using a gateway?
No. Why would they use a gateway at that point?
Okay, so
well, why would they? You said.
Yeah.
Why would they use a gateway?
Well, this comes down to my doubt. Okay, so let's go one up.
I can see.
You give me an example of what point anyone would use a gateway.
Oh, yeah. How about let's stick to this scenario. I'll give you an example of when this scenario would use a gateway. Yep. They would need to set up an exchange account with Binance, for example, and so they would need to set up a legal entity that can do that if they don't want to do it personally, and so that's what they'd use a gateway for.
Okay, so at that point, both these two actors through the platform.
Yep.
They got, some. Do you want to escalate to signing up? Here's the gateway services available. Binance. You both say, yep. You go to Binance.
No, hang on.
No.
What they're doing is Binance isn't going to sign up with these mysterious internet users. Binance needs a legal entity to bite its teeth into.
Mm-hmm.
And so the gateway is that legal entity and acts on behalf of these people operating on the network.
Okay, so at that in the Binance example, actor A and actor B would have to go to the gateway and do that whole thing about showing your passport, taking your video,
No.
holding passport, all that kind of thing.
Not necessarily. Some of the services that the gateway might offer is to say, look, we have directors for hire, we have service addresses for hire, we can set you up a company where you pay us a fee, and then these directors, they run your company. They're responsible for it, so they're gonna keep an eye on what you do and make sure you don't do anything that gets them in trouble. But they will offer their service for you, and then those people would go through the process of signing up to a Binance account.
Okay, and presumably the gateway would have some preferred jurisdiction.
It is a jurisdiction. It exists it must exist in a jurisdiction, and you would pick one of the gateways that suits your purpose, suits your cost, and then off you go.
Yeah, and the articles of association of that would be refer to platform A's.
They would be derivatives of
platform attribution algo.
Yeah, that'd be derivatives of the standard gateway articles of incorporation. If you want to go outside of that, then you need to go and set up your own thing.
Right. So there's a gateway that you can set up this company, and that company goes off and gets it. If someone else wants to do, something similar, actor C, actor D, they get a new pop-up company.
Mm-hmm.
And the agreement, the articles of association of both companies, point to and are compatible.
Look. The whole point of the gateway is not this. I mean, you gave me a scenario and I gave you an answer as best I could see it fitting in, but it's not really the type of thing that I would feel comfortable with the gateway being used for. You could use it for that, but that is the purpose that I see for the gateways is to help people who are trying to start a venture just get going. And it's about making a way for them to create a vehicle for them to operate that makes it so easy to use ambient attribution as a means of replacing cap tables, because I see so many people, like you take our mutual associate from Full Spectrum, how many hours would have been spent arguing about the cap table, talking about the cap table? How many?
I think he's still doing it.
But that's the problem, right? And we're saying that we've got this new model of cooperation, which is ambient attribution, where it's all handled by an AI. We need the gateways to provide an exemplary, easy to get going version that upholds that for you without any of the years and years of dicking around that took us to even figure out what the first company sort of maybe might look like, let alone actually apply it. And so the gateways are actually, yes, you could use them for doing your banking or doing this and that. The real point of them is that if you want to get going with ambient attribution and you need a legal entity to give you some sort of officialdom and sign up for low risk things like, getting a telephone bill or something like that, you need to, or we need to provide that service through gateways. The ambient attribution ready little modules. It's like a little blade in a server room that's like this tiny little high performance thing. It's pre-provisioned. It's got all the basics for ambient attribution. You can't misuse it. You can't break out of the containment box that it gives you. And if you want to do something more than that or disagree with the attribution element, then you need to go somewhere else. But it's basically ready to go within like an hour of you deciding that it's time.
Okay, so at that point, at that level, we're actually starting to split. So the base compute, storage, DNS, that seems like that is the platform's problem.
Yes.
Nothing to do with the gateways.
No.
The gateways are, and there's many services offering pop-up companies. It's essentially a pop-up company that has articles written that points at a platform.
Correct.
And it's like, if you want to have a JV, if you want to have a partnership, if you want to have
Yep.
a limited company in this
Yep.
jurisdiction,
Yep.
go there. Boom,
Yep.
boom, boom, boom.
It's to give you a very lightweight, official, legal entity to start your project with, and it comes pre-provisioned with ambient attribution built in.
This is starting to make sense. Looking for computers, it's not bloody attached. I was looking for those texts that I sent over, and you gave a list of services.
I can get that back for you.
Previously, I was lumping all those in.
I am your
gateway
friendly
split out
computer operator.
Computer.
Computer. Computer.
So you sent over a list. Fine.
I'm having a bad computing experience right now.
When's the last time you had a good computing experience? Well, actually, when you're using our system, ironically. Right, there you go. So, go down. Yep, it starts with identity. There, okay, so these are types, right? These are groups, right? So just can you check off each of these about whether they are in a gateway or in a platform, or in the platform?
Okay, identity has a software interface in the platform that represents how identity is works within the protocol. Identity can be provided by a decentralized identity such as an Ethereum wallet, or it can be provided by a identity service like Privy. The identity service of Privy would use a gateway only for the fact that Privy needs a legal agreement with some entity. Now we could anytime that I say that you could use a gateway, you could also use your own company. Like we could go set a company up in Delaware, and it can have a relationship with Privy, and that can provide the identity that can fulfill or the identity interface that the platform protocol needs.
Yeah, you can hand roll it if you want.
Yeah. Is that a sufficient answer?
There is one follow up though. Is identity ever needed in the platform then?
Everywhere.
By identity, I mean KYC, not.
That's just that is identity, but that's that is an expansion on identity, or the addition of properties to it. That's verification of identity. That's not identity itself. It's like when you need to deepen the identity and relate it to government institutions. That's KYC, and so that would need to go through a gateway or a roll your own legal entity.
Got it. So if we split identity into two subtypes,
yeah,
KYC and authorization, normal password, hash, whatever
Right.
the
Yeah. So
platform
there's
requires.
your software identity, and
Yeah,
then there's the legal identity. And anytime you need a legal identity, you would be using a gateway service or some other kind of legal service that's in the platform. Now, it
correct.
doesn't have to
So,
be a gateway, but it probably is easier if it was.
okay, so we can move KYC into gateway
Yep.
and keep authorization inside of platform.
Yep.
Okay, so for payment, where does that go? I suspect that would be
Payment again
similarly
is similarly, yeah. So payment is an interface within the software that permits anybody to issue an asset and transfer assets around. If you want to move cryptocurrencies, then all that is required is a software module that bridges between our protocol and the blockchain where the asset is held. I would hope that one day we can include a native currency in us so that the interface could be fulfilled by something in software as well, but that's a little bit down the road. If you want to use legal money, legal tender, then you will need to use a gateway to do that. And depending on your jurisdiction and your usage of that money, you may need to have gone through KYC and AML.
okay. So inside of the platform, whatever the platform decides, you can get paid out in crypto, you can get paid out in fiat,
The platform doesn't
cows,
decide.
whatever.
The platform doesn't decide. It's
Not
the
that provides
traders,
these.
the
Yeah.
participants decide what they will accept, and they have what they have.
But
They
does it go through the platform, or is it just trader to trader? It's like, right, you owe me now this. Send it out off platform.
well, it has to be off platform because the platform just holds a record of external value that's being moved around, and it needs to reconcile with that periodically. If it's a physical thing like a cow, you need someone to assert that the cow has moved. And
Yeah,
then if you
which
trust
means
that,
I mean, the large consequence of that is the platform needs to have awareness of these
yeah, so that's
exchange mechanisms.
that's part of the software payment features where it's
Yeah,
like you can set up an asset for something and you can transfer it to people, and then you can sort of verify that it has been
right, right.
transferred. Just
So
just like how you would set up an Ethereum transaction, the platform can definitely do the transaction, but it will need to wait a period of time for the next blocks to be mined in the Ethereum chain before it can verify that the transaction did indeed complete.
yeah,
That's just
and
reconciling.
the platform would also potentially, if say you wanted to deal only in fiat, and the platform offers a Stripe, integration, then they get clawback.
Yeah,
That's
chargeback.
possible.
Chargeback
Yeah,
is possible, yeah. Yeah. But it's
yeah.
not, in that
But it's
case, it's not the platform that's offering it. It is a participant on the platform has issued some Stripe currency that has the properties of being clawbackable, chargebackable. And
yeah,
so
but
if you
but
choose to
yeah,
accept it, you accept it with those caveats.
right. But the actor doesn't need to go and get their own Stripe accounts set up at that,
Not if
at that
they
level.
not if they're
They just
using someone else's. If they're using if there's a Stripe provider on the platform.
Yeah, they just need to give like a destination. So like, okay, I'm owed $100. You tell a platform through the platform, here it is, and then the transaction is done.
Why would you ever be owed money in this system?
Well, as at the dispersal event of any attribution, there's money exchange. Say if
But it's not owed.
oh, well, yes, it is. It's not a debt.
What?
It's an app has generated $1,000. The attribution algorithm has decided that $100 of that should go to me.
Yeah.
I mowed that. Or is that the wrong word? I don't know. I mowed that. The attribution algorithm has stated that there's $1,000 to be distributed, and I got $100 of that.
You, in that case, you would have that, and then you would have to, like, I think one example is that if you got paid that on the platform and then a chargeback occurred, you would then lose that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So, yep.
So that would just be a pass through anyway, because it's Stripe who insures for the chargeback, not the platform.
Well, the platform's just the platform's not a legal entity. The platform doesn't have a bank account. The platform is just simply a record keeping system. And so it can record what happened, like it transferred $100 Stripe dollars to you as attribution, and then the Stripe dollars were charged back. It can record that, but the platform itself is not an entity, is not a legal entity.
It needs to have an association with the legal entity. For example, if you the platform says, right, okay, here's the free tier, and this tier you're going to put $200 into your account. That money's got to go somewhere.
That's not the platform. The platform is just software. The running instance of the platform.
So in the case of Dreamcatcher, in that previously you're saying we want to charge for consuming.
Yep.
Where does the money go? Into a bank account somewhere. It's transferring from.
Yeah, but it's held by the legal entities that took the money, and it's paid out to the legal entities that are owed the money. Sorry, I see what you mean by owed, but owed the money, or have the rights to redeem the money from the records of the platform. It's not ever on the platform. The platform's just the records of the system.
And if the platform wants to charge, say, 3% for providing the service.
Yeah, I think this is the heart of our issue. You keep saying the platform like the platform is an entity when it's not. The platform is
talking at the legal layer, and
and at the legal layer, the platform is not. The platform is not a legal entity. The gateways are legal entities.
Okay, so same question. Say if Dreamcatcher.
Can we name it? Can we name it separate? Because I feel like the name collision.
Robot Army. Sets up a bunch of servers.
Yep.
That uses the protocol.
So it sets up a Deno instance of the platform software, and it says, "Hey, come to robotarmy.com and use the Dreamcatcher."
Yeah, and we'll take $10 a month for using the platform.
Right.
3%.
And so the users would sign up to that by coming to the URL, entering their Stripe details, and the Stripe processing account would be controlled by the Robot Army legal entity. They would be using servers controlled by the Robot Army legal entity, and when we were going to pay them out anything, it would come from the Robot Army bank account.
Yeah, okay, so that's the legal entity when I'm talking about Dreamcatcher, but let's talk about Robot Army. I think that's more useful because it's got more traction.
Okay.
Okay, so then Now, above a certain level, there can be any number of gateways. Sorry, say if Robot Army hyphen gateway wants to set up uh, an ability for people to transact or create companies in Delaware
Yep.
to use their instance that they're running,
Their instance of what?
their instance of the Dreamcatcher protocol with
Right. Oh, yeah.
attribution and so
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
yep. So Robot Army now needs to produce this service, this pop-up service, and make sure that it's all kosher.
Yeah.
It's still them legally.
Yeah.
That's just like a service that they provide.
Yeah.
But Robot Army then contracts with whichever services are needed through that. So if someone wanted to go through AWS as a preference, then Deno, and that was offered, it would be the Robot Army who would deal with that and just provide that service to anyone who wanted to use their platform. So Robot Army really is a gateway.
It's acting as a gateway in that sense, yeah. It's also acting as a platform host and a payment processor.
Yeah.
But it's never the platform that howled or did anything. It's always the legal entity that's
I think I see where
right. It's real
Yeah.
subtle.
Yeah.
Like it's real
So-
subtle, but it's like I think that's really it.
Yeah. So in the single instance, Robot Army has a bunch of legal obligations,
Yep.
regulations, responsibilities, and
Yep.
liabilities.
Yep.
And one of the things it does is it takes the software provided by Dreamcatcher Foundation, which I'm not even going to touch on right now.
Yeah,
but,
and who knows
you know,
where the
open
software
source.
came from? It doesn't even matter. But
And
it's got
then
the
they
software.
Set up a bunch of Deno instances, and
Yep.
they do all this storage,
Yep.
DNS, all that other stuff.
Yep.
And people come on, and they're using that in the same way as Squarespace will give
Yep.
you a platform to set
Yep.
up a website.
Yep. That's
Go
right.
for it.
Yep.
And there's a few bells and whistles on that, in that also allows these pop-up companies,
Yep.
which are not actually fundamental to the protocol,
No,
but it's just nice to have.
it makes it very much easier for you
Yeah.
to do it. It's like you could run the whole internet without DNS, but it's kind of easier.
Yeah, it'd be grim.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
All
like, running your own website, it'd be like if you're on, like, dreamcatcher.wix.com, that ain't your own one, right? But if you then want to officiate yourself a little more and get a dedicated DNS name, that would be like setting up a trading as relationship in a gateway, or pay a bit extra and create a subsidiary. But the point is that all that fucking hard slog of what should the articles of incorporation be to be compatible with the Dreamcatcher? That's a big question, and we don't even have that answered, but we're gonna allow people to replicate that very, very cheaply, because it settles so many fucking problems.
Now, let's talk about the Robot Army level,
Okay.
not the protocol level.
Yep.
So, Android Army, a separate company,
Yep.
wants to set up in a different jurisdiction.
Yep.
Uses the same protocol, does
Yep.
exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Is there any interaction between these two?
Can be.
For
Yeah.
example, in NAP discovery and
Yep.
the honoring of attribution between.
Yep. If they are good actors adhering to the protocol, then they would appear as one.
So that's a one-to-one agreement between Robot Army and Android Army.
What's the agreement? Where did the agreement come from?
In honoring of, for example,
It's not an agreement. It's the fact that they're running the same software.
Oh, we're back down to the protocol level, though. My question was, is there any agreement between them,
No.
or are they completely separate?
No, it'd be like if I start a website using GoDaddy and I start a website using Squarespace. The Squarespace website can call a service that's hosted by my GoDaddy website. There's no agreement between Squarespace and GoDaddy. There's no agreement between even those two websites necessarily, depending on the nature of the API call. There's compatibility. That's all.
So some APIs, for example, require you to agree terms and conditions of use, acceptable use being
Correct.
the obvious one.
Correct. And so in that
where
case,
does that go?
there would need to be some kind of an agreement. But NAPs, all of the NAPs we've spoken about so far, don't have any of those kinds of conditions.
Only because we haven't done, for example, whether NAP that actually calls an API that says, your first 1,000 calls are for free. Afterwards, it's a fraction of a cent.
Oh, right, yeah, but that's different. You don't need an agreement to charge money because you're not going into debt on the platform. The weather app could advertise easily. It's like, look, this is what I do, and I'm going to give you the first 1,000 calls free. Fine. You don't need to have any kind of agreement for it to say, hey, I need some money now. You just need a payment path to go between those two things, which means that if you're a user on Platform 1, you need to acquire some assets that are recognized on Platform 2. And it's irrelevant what those are.
It's that payment path I think I was talking about, the cash.
Yeah. That path is
cycle.
that path is it's an interesting one, but I believe it's very easily solved because if you've got two Stripe entities on Android Army and Robot Army, they would it would be in their best interest to have some sort of agreement between them to allow the funds to be bridged or transferred between them. So an exchange rate where they're like, I'll swap this for this. Bear in mind that there are chargebacks that can occur on either side, and so that needs to be taken into account, right? So it's really about what the other guy will accept as payment and what the other guy has to give or has to offer. There doesn't have to be an agreement, but I think what you're trying to get at with agreements for payment paths is really an exchange mechanism between them, because that exists a lot in blockchain land, where you have to bridge between chains in a reliable way. And so quite often the people at each end, they don't even care. They're called swaps generally in blockchain land, and it is actually a very useful system because it's like, I've got this asset on this chain and I need to get it into one of these assets on this other chain, and then it goes off and finds you a path and tells you the cost and tells you the loss and tells you the time, and then you're like, yeah, let's do it, bang, and then off it goes. It's the same as making a international bank transfer, right? Except it's just faster and more secure on chain. So that's all that really is there.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Now the protocol compatibility is one that I feel like we're almost at agreement there, but it's just like running websites. They are protocol compatible over HTTP, but they don't need agreements with each other to be able to interact. They can be running on different hosts, no problem. And the reason why, like, I really don't wish to overcomplicate this thing, but the reason why it's critical to be able to, or at least have in our periphery the notion of multiple platforms is because the core promise of portability and sovereignty dictates that you can be a dream catcher of one if you want. You should be able to take everything that's yours in Robot Army and Android Army, take it off them, and run it on your own server in your garage, and then unplug the internet. You should be able to do that. That's the. It's not. It's not.
Both together. That sounds. I agree with the end part, but talk me through again slowly.
Right.
The structure we've got
Yeah.
just discussed.
Yeah.
How
So
this works.
I'm a user.
Mm-hmm.
I've paid some money into the Stripe gateway that gives me some credits on Android Army, and I've paid some Stripe credits into Robot Army. At some point, I decide that I have smoked too much weed and I just can't handle being on the internet anymore. I can take all of my stuff that's my data, my naps, my config, my whatever, my identity, and I can take it from each of those platforms and run it on my own computer at home and then cut off the internet.
By doing so, are you removing that data or are you just duplicating it? Or then forking it?
If it's your data and these platforms are both honorable platforms operating in legal jurisdictions that require that they delete your personal data on request, then you've duplicated it and then told them to delete it.
And the the tokens that you have.
You mean the Stripe credits?
Yeah.
You can get a refund for that back to your credit card at best. But those are actually never yours. Like, even when you hold a £20 Scottish note, that's not yours. You sort of have a license to hold it.
Yeah, it's effectively a bearer bond.
Right. And that's the same as Stripe credits. They're not yours like a lump of gold can be yours. They are held in trust for you by the platform. And an honorable platform will let you get a refund for your excess credits if you're leaving. They'll say, sorry to see you go. We have now refunded these credits back to the credit card that put them in.
Okay. Now.
Uh-oh. But this is the key thing. I feel like every time I've presented the multiple platform view to you, it's come out wrong because it sort of seemed like...
We're talking layers.
No, this is not a layer thing. This is a size at the same layer. And I wanted to focus in on the individual because protecting the individual's rights is what this whole system was designed for. And having two platforms is the same architecture as having one platform and then one independent user who decides to go self-hosted. That's why I keep talking about multiple platforms being critical. It's the self-sovereignty aspect of it.
Yeah. If you flick back to this, because I think I've got it, but let me read back.
The image or the text?
The image, yeah. So what we'll do here is rename Dreamcatcher platform, because that's just confusing hell of us. It's Dreamcatcher compatible platform.
Yeah.
I would add in Robot Army, who's the one who's actually making all this run.
Yep.
Providing deno, etc.
Yep.
The users just turn up, and it's whatever the compatible platform wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of providing services, part of those services that Robot Army has decided is it's going to do Dreamcatcher compatible companies and JVs and so on. So you don't have to.
Yep.
But they're real things.
Yep. That's right.
And those real things can contract out.
Yep.
Like any other company. And so you come on there, and it's like, this is great. We're doing stuff, doing it. I'm interacting with all sorts of other guys,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, hey guys, let's set up. It's a Saturday morning. Let's do Saturday morning company that we're gonna hit this stuck, and we're gonna throw up a company because we might want to. Why would you ever want to sell the company? Because we've got traders. Why would they ever want to do that?
Why would you want to sell the
Probably
company?
because, yeah.
I
No,
think you
no,
got
no. Sorry, I'm
distracted,
just
buddy.
answering.
You were
Yeah,
going.
yeah. No, just answer my own question. So they can throw up an own company just because they want to um, sell something to another company. And their companies like dealing with other companies, but they don't want to go through the hassle of it, and they all want to work on the Dreamcatcher compatible platform provided by
Mm-hmm.
Robot Army.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Android Army has exactly the same setup, only they're in the US instead of Europe,
Okay.
and they're using the same protocol.
Yep.
Um, that protocol effectively mushes the interaction between them.
Mm-hmm.
The services provided are, you're either in this jurisdiction or you're in that jurisdiction, so they can't mush that level. That's the whole point of jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, maps moves backwards and forwards because it's on the same protocol, and they're because each are good actors. The Robot Army and the Android Army are good actors. The contribution is recorded in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Attribution is there might be some nuances there, whether they want to choose one attribution model over another one, but the rules of doing that are the same,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're effectively the same. So at that level, it's like, yeah, okay,
Yep.
we'll go through that. Now, the those two platforms are the what it means to be Dreamcatcher compatible is simply stated by Dreamcatcher Foundation, saying this is what an app is.
Yep.
These are the rules for attribution and so on.
Yep.
Now, that means the foundation really comes down to not dictating what you do about it, but just verifying, pointing at Robot Army
Asserting.
platform. It's like, yep, that is compatible.
Yep.
It's a little badge. Android Army, yes, you're compatible. Happy days. Now, Bad Robot Company sets up their own one, sets up what originally is a Dreamcatcher platform, a compatible platform, but then changes the code in order to do nefarious things.
Yep.
So the foundation points at that and saying, you're not compatible. No badge. Bad Robot.
Yep.
And then it's for the good actors to decide. Okay, so we might have interactions between the two companies in order to make things easier. If we need, we might not, because actually this is just one protocol. But we're good actors. We don't want to lose our badge, so we're not talking to Bad Robot.
Yep.
All right, I think I've got something neat to get my teeth into there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, a couple of points to pick up on that run you just did there. As a user, as an actor, when I come in to use the Robot Army hosted computers, we discussed me being able to pull my data off there and run it on my own computer at home. I should also be able to migrate it over to Android Army, just because I chose. And so in that,
you moved house from US to Europe.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
easier. Yeah.
But the fancy thing is that I should also be able to run it in consensus mode on all three.
Yes.
Right. That means
Yes,
that it's
that's
running simultaneously in lockstep across all
That's
three.
that's what you've been pointing at all
Yeah,
along. It's
dude.
merge in. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that
That thing.
consensus mode is really the point
That's
where,
blockchain. That's
yeah, it
motherfucking
doesn't,
blockchain.
yeah, it doesn't matter where you are because everyone
Right.
agrees because they've got the same protocol.
And you got
Both
enough
the
to have
data and
quorum.
the
You
state.
got
Yeah,
enough to have quorum. Like if Android Army disagrees with Home Computer and Robot Army, then we're gonna go with the quorum.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then that just resolves down to um, uh, essentially the chain of contributions. What's the truth? Let's get to consensus on the chain of contributions between them all because they've already been you compatible, you compatible, you compatible. Now we need, a consensus on a chain of contributions across all three.
We might be talking about something different there. I was just simply meaning I receive an email, and if I'm running in consensus mode across these three hosting environments, where the political control of the groups of computers is different between all three, then receiving an email needs to reach quorum before, from my perspective, I actually receive the email.
Okay, so for email, you mean an event? That needs to
Any
be
event, any
recorded.
data,
Yeah,
anything that changed, I should be, because I can migrate around these hosts, I should also be able to run them in lockstep in a quorum,
yeah, that makes sense.
like like database replication.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So an event, an email
yeah.
comes into
And
one,
so from that, yeah, and
and
from that point of view, Robot Army host, Android host, and my home computer host, they are just simply hosting services, and I can pick my stuff up and move it
yeah,
between
but
any of them at whim.
they have importantly uh, they have the reason I was looking at the contribution is um, the consensus is on the state of the world, what's just happened, and email has just come in, and
Yep,
that's recorded by one on
yep,
their contribution record, and then eventually reaches consensus, and then everyone agrees that that email came in.
yep,
And so that's the bit that kind of combines them all because they're all compatible with the rest of it,
and
the
that,
protocol and so on.
yeah,
The actual outside of the protocol, there's the running data. The running data really is the contribution because the attribution module is basically just an app, which is again,
yeah.
you know,
It and it should be running in consensus. Like it is of monetary benefit that Robot Army and Android Army get together and say, hey, do you want to run the platform wide attribution algorithm in lockstep together in consensus so that we can have even more trust from our users that we're doing it right?
yeah. But
That's really what we want, because to get the key feature that I want so bad is decentralized income. And you can't have that if there's only Robot Army Host Inc. You can only have it if you've got a disinterested quorum of people running the software and deciding who gets paid what from running a quorumed piece of software. And that's
yes,
why the multiple hosting thing is life or death for us.
right. So let me test this.
Like
So
it
should I
ain't
just make?
fucking decentralized if there's only two players.
Oh, okay, right. Lots, as many as you want. Okay, but there is the contribution record as the source of truth
Yep.
that's under consensus.
Yep.
We got lots of uh, instances that are all compatible.
Hosts, lots of hosts.
Hosts.
Yep.
And each have got slightly different attribution algorithms. One gives out
You
gold
can't. They're not
stars.
compatible.
Yeah, no.
They
Listen,
can't run in consensus then.
No, listen to me though. One say, as a stupid example, one gives out gold stars, gold stickers, for being good, based on, an event as they see fit on their attribution. Someone else gives out dollars. Someone else gives out medals. The attribution algorithm runs. That is an event that goes onto the central record, the contribution record, reaches consensus. Now, if someone else wants to consider, maybe they're paying out dollars, and it's like, oh, you've already had a gold sticker, so that's part of our attribution. So that's going to alter it. Maybe you get more, maybe you get less. Don't know, but you've got all that information about what the other attribution algorithms have done. So you don't need a centralized attribution algorithm at all. But what you do need to do for hosts that are in consensus is to record it.
Yeah, I disagree very strongly with that. I do not believe that method is going to give you something that can pass the decentralized income test, because each individual party is doing something different. I think you could achieve the same outcome as what you just detailed by simply having different hosts hold different assets, but they reach a quorum on how the assets should be paid out. And then the actual paying of them happens uniquely on each host because they have their own assets. Like one is like US dollars, Stripe issued US dollars. The other one is UK issued US dollars. That's separate and unique to the hosting locality, but the attribution algorithm has to be done in a consensus reaching fashion, in my opinion. I don't think that us deciding whether it is or it isn't right now helps us in any way, because we agree that it needs to be something and it needs to be run across multiple computers. Whether or not it has to be in lockstep, we can debate that at the time. Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
We're probably going back 3 years to the.
All right. Now I just want to say I'm
effort
actually very late here and it needs to get
okay.
going. The last question I want to raise is, you say often, and you said in the story you just gave then, they are moving the naps back and forth between each other. Why do you say moving a nap? What does that mean?
Well, it's mostly accessing it, so I'm assuming that.
Why did you say moving when you actually mean accessing?
See someone, or are you talking about entirely duplicating all the naps?
No,
everywhere?
I'm talking about what you mean when you say moving a nap, because you described, you were like, there's Robot Army, there's Android Army, there's users on them, and they're moving naps back and forth. That's what you said.
All right. Okay.
What do you
in
mean?
that case, what I was talking about, but moving is still pertinent. I was saying that someone using Robot Army's host
Yeah.
discovers a nap on Android Army's host.
Yep.
And utilizes it, but that's different from moving. That's not what I meant at the time. No.
What do you mean at the
time? Meaning accessing, discovery, testing, bringing everything together on two different platforms. But we're not talking about the nap here being deleted from here and then appearing here. We're just saying discovery. We're using this nap. Discovered that nap.
I still don't get why that means moving. Why the word moving would be used there at all.
I can't remember using moving. However,
you've used it many times when you describe when you're quite quickly rattling off how people are using naps. Moving back and forth comes up a lot, and I'm confused.
Okay. Well, let me correct myself then. The instance would be. I'm on this platform. I've put in a prompt. The jitter goes off, discovers naps. Some naps are here on this storage, run by this
host. Yeah.
Some are on this one,
yeah.
This host. Or discover them, bring them together, do the testing, and there's your jitter.
All right. Cool. Okay, now just
So,
to calibrate here, my expectation of how I see the platform developing is that 99.9% of all the naps that get used in the jitters are going to be part of the same shared set, as opposed to, say, half of them on Android Army, 49% on Robot Army,
yeah,
and 1%, right?
I'm
Like,
fine with
I'm
that.
actually viewing it as it will all equalize and there will be the same global set for the most part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But in the same
Okay.
way as discovering websites, they might actually be on different storages, but the discovery space is unified.
Yeah, yeah, the discovery space is unified. Um, no, that's still different. That's true, but I actually envisage that the hosting space will be universal as well.
Oh, okay, all right,
You
yeah,
right.
yeah, like a kind of live kind of
Well, what I
database.
want to see is actually that the biggest platform is actually the free for all platform where everyone's donating their home resources. And so, whilst you can have an AWS run host, it's actually this large amorphous blob of home computers should theoretically be bigger than all the others, and that's the place where all your stuff
Yeah, okay, I don't see
sits
a
and
problem with
runs.
that one.
Yeah.
It's
All
it's
right.
like having
So
to download the chain every time you want to,
yeah.
mine.
So
Yeah.
this is sort of like I feel like we've hit on what I care about the most, which is this ability to make it a true decentralized platform. Because at that point, when it's decentralized, then you could call it the Dreamcatcher platform,
And it
and
can't be
then
turned off. Yeah.
and right censorship resistant, and then it can have its own currency within it. That's an intelligent AI controlled currency. Then it can be treated as a thing, just like Ethereum is treated as like it is an entity. It's not really, but it's got so much weight behind it that it kind of has become an entity in itself. Whereas just setting up a single host and running the Dreamcatcher software doesn't really make the platform an entity. It makes the entity that's running the platform is the entity. But if you've
Mhm.
got this coordination and this consensus going on, then the weight
Right.
of all those individual entities becomes the gives an entity like entitlement to the chain. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and on that theme, there's nothing stopping Bob from down the street to do exactly what Robot Army is doing.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's the only reason I bring up multiple platforms is to keep that goal in mind. And
Yeah.
I feel like we made significant progress there.
I think there's enough meat there because I know you're not available tomorrow, but that's good
Nah,
because it's probably going to be a couple of days before I get back to,
okay.
experiencing this
Well,
code
yeah.
base.
If it's cool, I'll leave you with that. That felt like precision work there. That was hard,
Yeah.
but I think we got some great progress. I have managed to do some file writing in the NAP platform work I'm doing, so that's
Uh,
sort of starting to
Excellent.
take shape quite quickly. I think
Yeah.
it solves some long-standing limitations of the old platform that I'd wanted to fix for a while. So that's I'll
Uh,
take that as a win.
that's good.
I better go,
Enjoy
buddy.
the.
I'm gonna I'm gonna get
No.
locked in.
Right, no, yeah, yeah.
I can stay and chat for about 10 minutes while this video uploads.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'll
Do
stop
that.
recording now.
Yeah, cool.